Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Reefing TV, where I discuss my real experiences in the hobby, give you guys real reefing knowledge that you can use on your tanks. I'm Cody Grates, this is my 300-gallon reef, and every Friday we're going to be going over a different aspect of this 300-gallon system, one piece at a time. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done so. You know there's going to be a lot of great videos to come and a lot of great content, stuff that you guys can use on your builds. This Friday, we're going to be diving into the livestock of this tank. We're going to look at the fish, the corals, worms, the algae. We're going to look at the shrimp, the snails, the crabs. Everything in this tank is inside of this box. We're going to take a look at in this episode. So we're going to hit the livestock hard. We're going to talk about the fish, the corals, the inverts, and yeah, even algae. The first thing I want to talk to you guys a little bit about is my fish in here. So in here I have 4 tangs. I have an orange shoulder tang, a unicorn tang, yeah, actually like a unicorn, a blue hippo tang, and a tomini tang. I also have 3 blue-green cromis, which more look blue to me than green, so not really sure why they're called blue-green chromis. And I have 2 clownfish. I also have a pajama cardinal, we call him heroin, because he looks like a junkie. I have a 6-line wrasse and a Alba Danzel. What I'm really happy to report is that all of my fish are getting along great. At this point, I haven't added any new fish in about a month. The last fish that I added to the system was that clownfish, and if you haven't seen the video of when I bought that clownfish, you can go ahead and follow the card up here and it'll take you to that video. The only fish that really kind of irks me and that I wish that I had out of here and that I would tell you is probably just stay away from it altogether is the 6-line wrasse. Followed behind that would be that Alba Danzel. I would just say, just as a general rule, stay away from damsels. I don't care if it's one of the, because this is one of the most, friendly damsels, and he's still not very friendly. Whenever you add a new addition to the tank, he'll chase them around for 2 or 3 days at the very minimum, if not kill them. So if I could give you any suggestions, stay away from the damsels, stay away from the 6-line wrasse, because they're jerks. Other than that, all the other fish in here are super nice to each other. I'll take that back. The yellow or the orange shoulder tang can be a little bit territorial, but not really that big of a deal. All right, so let's move on to the corals. This is a mixed reef tank. So mostly SPS because that's my thing. I'm a stick guy, but I do have some LPS in here, like some Duncans and some chalices. Also have some Fabias and brains in here, so I do have a mixture. I also have some softies. I've got a nice extra large green sinulera over there. It's banging under the blue lights. Also have some zoas here. In the past, I really haven't done well with zoas, but they're doing really well. They're kind of exploding in here, which I'm really happy about, and starting to think about going out and picking some up at maybe the Florida frag swap coming up here pretty soon. So for those of you that don't know, SPS corals are small polyp stony corals. Those are the ones that you see that look like sticks, or they're just hard, they're not moving. Maybe they have some little polyps swaying on them, but they're not moving at all. The ones that are big and meaty and fleshy, those are large polyp stony corals, or LPS corals. And then you have soft corals, which are the ones that are more flowy and they don't have a calcium base to them whatsoever. You could literally take a razor blade and slice right through them, no problem. If you can do that, it's a soft coral. So I just wanted to highlight a few of my favorite corals, some that I've had for years. And one of them is the green Poecilopora that's in the back. It's an SPS coral. It's kind of hidden right now by my Miami orchid, which is also an SPS. And I've had that thing since I started in the hobby. In fact, I'm gonna throw a picture of it up right here. And I've had it since it was a quarter inch tall. It was nothing. when I bought it, and now it's sitting at around probably 8-10 inches around back there, and it's got a great green color. My second favorite is this SPS, and I really don't know its name. I think it's called a pearlberry or something like that, but it's a tabling acro, and it sits right over here. And it's also about 8-10 inches in diameter. Really good colors in it. It's got blue and purple and green, and I really like the growth pattern. And finally, one that I've had really great success with is this frog spawn that's growing in the back. I grew it from about 5 heads, and now it's got to have, I don't know, 60, 70, maybe even 100 heads on it, and it's about the size of a volleyball. Believe it or not. I know it doesn't look that big in the video, but it's pretty good size. It's about like that. So those are just a few of my favorite corals. So now I want to tell you guys a little bit about the inverts in this tank. I have 3 anemones, 2 red bubble tip anemones, and a purple tip sea bay anemone. I have 1 skunk cleaner shrimp. I have like 3 big zebra snails and quite a few blue leg hermits. And those are my kind of cleanup crew. They take care of whatever is, not eaten by my fish. They eat the algae off the rocks and off the glass. Although I wish they would clean up my glass a little bit more often for me. It seems like every few days I've got to clean the glass, so maybe they could do a little bit more work. I also have a tiger conch snail. He's pretty good at cleaning up the sand bed and stirring it up a little bit here and there. And speaking of the sand bed, there's actually a lot of invertebrates that live in your sand, believe it or not. There's a lot of critters, and I think a lot of people call them microfauna, I call them critters, but hey. But you'll have actually worms growing in your sand, and those are eating the detritus and the fish poop and all of that, nasty stuff that, settles down in your sand. So those are actually great. If you see those, don't freak out, leave them there. Bristleworms are fine. They can sting you if you stick your hand in and grab one, but they're great at eating all the detritus and cleaning up that waste. So I don't have any problem with them if they're in my tank. Let's talk a little bit about the algae, because actually it's a pretty big component of what is going on in your tank. And I know it's not necessarily something that you go to the fish store and buy, but it's a huge part of your ecosystem. The algae that's on the rocks, the algae that's on the glass and on your sand plays a huge role in what your fish and your snails and what your other livestock actually get to eat. A lot of your fish are actually herbivores, and so they'll eat the algae right off the rocks. They'll peck at it all day long. For instance, your algae blennies, your snails, and your tangs will feast on the algae on your rocks. So it's important that you have a little bit of algae on your rocks. And here's what it's also telling you as a bonus tip. It's also telling you that there's nutrients in your tank, which is a good thing. If you have too much algae and there's big stringy hair algae growing everywhere and it's unsightly, you probably have too much. But if you have a little bit of turf algae on your rocks, no big deal. That's great. That's good food for your fish, and it tells you that your ecosystem is running properly. I want to tell you a little bit about the types of algae that I have growing in here. So I have some purple and red coralline algae growing on my rocks. I also have a little bit of green turf algae growing on the rocks as well. It's a lot more accented when you have the yellower or the whiter lights on, but it's there, and it's there for my big zebra snails to eat. It's there for my tangs to eat, and it just keeps everything healthy in the tank. A little bit's okay, too much, probably not a good thing. Also, we have a little bit of, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this in the past videos, but I actually have a little bit of cyano growing on my sand bed. Now, cyano is actually not an algae, it's a bacteria. And it usually blooms when you have a little bit of a shift in your nutrients, a little bit more than that was there before. So it's a little bit of an imbalance because that bacteria can consume the nutrients faster than algae can. Now that's when you get a bacteria bloom like that. It'll go away, I'm not too worried about it. It's because I had my skimmer offline for a few days. But again, not worried about it. It'll go away after a week or so. So I'm betting you're thinking I've talked about literally every piece of livestock in this tank, but you're wrong. I haven't talked about the rock. What? Rock is livestock? Yeah, absolutely. Your rock and your sand are actually alive. Now, no, they're inanimate objects. They're non-living, but there is living bacteria on the rock and on the sand and living in the pores of the rock and of the sand that is actually feeding and keeping your tank going. A lot of us call it biological filtration, but it's actually bacteria that's living on the surfaces inside of your tank. But I just wanted to highlight that the bacteria that's living on your tank is just as important as the fish living in it. Hey, listen guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video and talking a little bit about my fish and livestock in this tank. I'm a huge geek for it, so I appreciate you sticking through to this video. If you haven't subscribed already, definitely do so. And if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And also, tell me a little bit about the livestock in your tank. Go ahead and drop that in the comments below. All right, guys, peace.